Hello, everyone. Welcome to our deep dive into William Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. Today, we are using the Saddleback Illustrated Classics edition to explore a story of death, revenge, and the power of mercy.
We have divided our show into parts. David will take you through the high stakes setup, and then I will lead you through the dramatic courtroom conclusion and what it all means for us today. Let's get it started.
Our story begins on the busy streets of Venice. We met Antonio, a wealthy merchant who is strangely sad. As he says, the world's stage, and the part one must play is a sad one. His friend Bassanio approaches him with a problem. He is in love with Portia, a beautiful heiress in Belmont, but he has no money to court her. Because Antonio's wealth is tied up in ships at the sea, they visit Shylock, a Jewish moneylender. Shylock has been treated cruelly by Antonio in the past, so he proposes a merry bond, as a joke. If the 3,000 ducats aren't repaid in 3 months, Shylock can cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Antonio, confident his ships will return, signs the contract. Meanwhile, in Belmont, Portia is frustrated by her late father's will to marry her. A suitor must choose the correct chest out of three: gold, silver, and lead. The Prince of Aragon chooses silver and finds a fool's head. Finally, Bassanio arrives. He chooses the humble lead chest and finds Portia pictured inside. They are overjoyed and get married immediately. However, the happiness is cut short when a letter arrives. Antonio's ships have wrecked, and Shylock is demanding his pound of flesh. Bassanio rushes back to Venice to save his friend.
Now the drama moves to the courtroom in Venice. Shylock is furious because his daughter, Jessica, ran away with his money to marry a Christian. He refuses all offers of repayment, even 36,000 ducats, because he wants revenge. He argues his humanity, saying, "If you prick us, though we not bleed; if you poison us, though we not die; and if you're wrong with us, shall we not take revenge?" Just as Antonio is about to lose his life, a younger lawyer named Balthazar enters into the courtroom. This is actually Portia in disguise. She begs Shylock for mercy, famously starring, we'll pray for mercy, and that you should teach us to give mercy to others. Then Shylock refuses. Portia uses the strict letter of the law against him. Then she tells him he can have his pound of flesh, but the bond mentions no blood. If he sheds one drop of Antonio's blood, his life and lands are forfeit to the state. Shylock is defeated. The Duke spares his life, but forces him to give half of his wealth to Antonio and eventually to Lorenzo and Jessica, and he must also become a Christian.
The play ends back in Belmont with a comedic ring trick where Portia and her maid Nerissa prove they were the ones in the courtroom, and everyone, except Shylock, celebrates. So, Shylock, the wrong one, the bond and the prejudice. Let's go back to the beginning, right? Why did you insist on that merry bond? Because 3,000 of ducats were offered to you, but you insisted that you wanted some flesh.
Yeah, Antonio laughed at me, he called me a dog, he even insulted my Jewish garments. So, if you run my business, then you shall pay, yeah?
Alright.
So, basically, if you call me a dog, if you insist I'm a dog, then you need to be aware of my fangs.
You need to be aware of your fangs,
Yeah.
right? So you are dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, Shylock, vengeance is not a business, right? And Antonio was bankrupt. His ships were lost at the sea, and you could have taken the offer that he made to you about 36,000 of ducats, right? But you refused that offer. Why did you do that?
Because vengeance for me is more than that. His flesh was worth to me more than 1,000,000 ducats for me, because
Okay.
vengeance is sweet to me. If he hates me, he needs to suffer. So, like I always say, if you prick me, you shall, though we bleed.
All right,
If you poison us, though we not die.
all right.
And if you're wrong with us, shall we not take the revenge? So that's my saying.
I mean, so you turn your paint into poison, right? But I mean, Shylock, you were so blind by your need of revenge that you forgot about the most important thing. Just one thing. It's about mercy, right? But it's okay. Let's start with the round number 2.
So let's talk about the trial, right? So I stood there with my scales and my knife, waiting for justice, and you were there, so young and wise, and you tell us that the quality for mercy is not strength. And also you tell us that we should pray for mercy, and that we should teach us to give another mercy. So tell me about that.
Well, Shylock, if you remember, I gave you every chance, right? I begged to you to take the money. I begged you to have a surgeon nearby so Antonio wouldn't bleed to death. But you said it isn't the bond. But I mean, Shylock, you were so obsessed with the literal words of law.
Listen, I trusted in the law of Venice, and I think that the law of Venice is blind.
Well, but that was your mistake, Shylock. You wanted the law, I gave you the law, and all of it. I told you, take your pound of flesh, of flesh, but shed one drop of blood, and you lose your life and your wealth.
But that doesn't make any sense. How? It was a trick, because how can you cook meat without blood? That doesn't make any sense. You used my status as an alien because I was not citizen of Venice. So that was kind of racist too, because I'm Jewish. So, what's the point there?
Well, I mean, the law must protect all of its citizens, right? But Shylock, I will admit, that punishment was harsh. I mean,
It was.
forcing you to convert into Christianity and forcing you to giving all your money to the daughter who betrayed you. That was the Duke's mercy, not mine. But I mean, it's okay. So in this segment number 3, that is about temporary connections and analysis, let's take a look of this through a modern point of view, right? Because today we talk about gender and power, and I am often seen as a feminist icon because I outsmarted men, but the real thing is that I have to hide my identity. And even today, many women in many professions and situations and different contexts, they have to act like a man to be taken seriously. Then that's a real problem.
Well, and look at me. I am the face of the systemic discrimination. In the play, I am the outsider. And we see in the today's societies how minorities and immigrants are treated. So, when the law is meant to protect the majorities but to punish the minorities, is it really justice?
Well, yeah, that's a really good point, Shyle, again. Also, it's a reflection of our context, right? Because in Colombia or anywhere else, actually, we see that law can be a weapon, and as the sources says, all the glitters is not gold. In this case, my victory looked golden, but it was it for you and Antonio Shyle, right? You know.
Yeah, and we must remember that today's readers are tomorrow readers.
Yes.
So if we see this as a happy ending, we are not really paying attention to the story. And the real lesson is that hate breeds hate.
Yeah, that's a fact, actually.